It's Craggy's Connacht Rugby Podcast. Connacht have won their third game in a row. Rob, you were commentating. Great win in the end.
Great win, great drama. As Conor Oliver said, set it up to entertain people. It really was a gripping turnaround. Probably one of the kind of turnarounds of the weekend, one of the moments of the weekend. I guess that tail and that finish won't tell the story of a pretty poor performance from Connacht up to the 50-minute mark. Very poor, actually. They, bar one break that Tiernan O'Halloran made in the entire first 50 minutes, they didn't look like scoring. Bar, of course, Jack Carty got that three-pointer. Ulster deserved to be 20 points to 3 up, which is an enormous scoreline to turn around. So to go from there to taking the 4 points, massive, massive result.
It was. Here's Pete Wilkins, Conor Oliver and Dan McFarland, and maybe a little bit of Jake Flannery, if the recording was, because I had some issues with my recorder, old battery problems that Rob used to have back in the day. But hopefully they'll be all sorted and we'll get good audio here. Anyway, here's all that audio.
All right, great to have man of the match Conor Oliver and Pete Wilkins with us. Pete, to start with, that's a massive W, isn't it, really, just to dig that out from where you were?
It's a fantastic result for us. We said to the lads downstairs, there are days when you play great rugby and you're entertaining everyone and you earn the right to win in that way, and there's other days where you have to dig in and show a heck of a lot of character to come from behind, and I thought that's what we saw today. And if we can be the team that does both of those things, either when it's required or both together, so the lads will be a good match for anyone. So really proud of the lads, and I think we deserve the win today, albeit in a different way to the previous week.
Last couple of weeks, the 3 games, there seems to be patterns. There seems to be the Connacht engine starts humming and the tries start flowing, but it's sometimes hard to find that kind of momentum. When you found it today, again, a flow of tries and a massive turnaround. Yeah,
I think the boys' composure and trust in the way we want to play the game, I think that's massive, and I think that's when you do start to see momentum turn. I think if you're panicking and having to try and pull tries out of nowhere and you're relying on one individual to maybe spark a bit of magic, I think that's when you get those real inconsistencies within games. But for us, when we've clicked, we sort of doubled down on what we're doing well, and again that shows a maturity, I think, about how the lads are approaching the game, but also real belief in how we want to go about it.
I'll switch to Conor for a second. Conor, what changed underneath those posts, or did anything change? Because that was an awful blow at the start of the second half to concede that try within 90 seconds.
Yeah, kind of like Pete said, look, we trust our game plan. I didn't think we had to change much. The breakdown was a small bit of an issue. Maybe we chatted about that, and then we just said, look, boys, we trust our game plan. Let's stick to the plan, just keep chipping away at it. As Pete said, although probably wasn't the start we would have wanted, but the belief in the group and everything we're doing here as well is massive. So there's no panic at any point. So we believe we're going to win.
What was really striking about that game is a very similar fixture to Ulster fixtures in the last 4 or 5 years, but this time there's a little bit of a difference. Can you see that? Can you see some of the elements of what you feel is the improvement on Connacht that came at the end of last season shining through in a game where they're in this, where they're not, let's be honest, Connacht didn't play well for 45 minutes.
Yeah, I can. I think there's different elements of it in terms of that growth of the team. I thought we played some pretty good stuff for the first 20 minutes without getting into the opposition 22, and that's why, for all the possession, it didn't really transfer into any points. I think there are seasons in the past where we possibly would have panicked at that point, that we'd had our chances and maybe not made the most of them, and you start to I suppose go off plan, and that could could result in loose turnovers. It could result in discipline errors at the breakdown in defence, because you're trying to win the ball back quicker because you feel like you should have scored already. So I thought the way we weathered that, although Ulster were the better team in that second quarter, the fact that we didn't panic, I think, was massive. And as we talked about that period either side of half time, again, to come out second half and be 20 points to 3 down early in that second half, we didn't start throwing Hail Marys from our 22. We still used our kicking game. We got those metres down the field. We trusted our kick chase. Discipline on the whole was pretty good in terms of making sure that we didn't give any sort of free returns. So you're seeing little aspects of that throughout the game, and I think that's key. And it's key that we're talking about it off the pitch as well. you know, when things don't go to plan, and we see moments in games where, you know, the players could be getting together and could be having conversations and problem solving and reconnecting after a period of negative momentum. You know, we're talking about that openly, and the players are taking ownership of that. And as I said, you've seen an enormous maturity there in leadership, and not just from, you know, the obvious guys like your Jack Cartys and your Caelan Blades, but guys like Conor Oliver next to me, Jared Butler, people whose voice are really important within the group, and I think that sets a tone for how the collective then responds in those moments. So honestly, I can't give them enough credit. We're not there yet. We've got plenty of growth to come in terms of that mindset piece and in terms of the rugby, but that's really exciting. And I think, you know, luckily we're talking about that growth on the back of 3 wins to start the season.
Yeah, and I mean this in the right way. Obviously, there's a lot of points conceded. You're conceding an average of 20 points. Is that something that we can expect to see during the season? You're not too worried about that if you're getting the results? Or is, when you say Ulster were the better team in that quarter, like, what is the why there? Why do you think they had that edge? And other teams have got an edge at different points in games, Glasgow and Ospreys as well.
Yeah, I think it's probably the nature of the URC as a whole, in the sense that, you know, most teams are going to have periods where their attack is going well and putting you under pressure. I think particularly against, you know, the stronger teams in the competition. I'd put Ospreys, Ospreys as a team probably in a bit of transition, but with their strengths. But when you come up against Glasgow and Ulster, you know, they'll be near the top of the ladder come the end of the season. And I think you can't go into those games and be surprised that they're going to have periods of momentum or periods of dominance. It's how you ride those out and how quickly you can turn the corner, I suppose. So the defence isn't a concern to me. I think, you know, there's aspects in there that we'll keep polishing. The same with our attack, the same with our set piece and everything else. You know, ultimately it's about winning games, and if we're doing that by conceding a few but scoring a few more, that's fantastic. But ultimately, of course, you know, we want to be dominant both sides of the ball.
Conor, just to finish, it's a big couple of weeks now. Obviously, there'll be less pressure on you. People won't be expecting away victories as quickly as they do at home victories. What do you want to get out of this trip to Edinburgh and then the big trip to South Africa?
Wins, really. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Like, I don't really have much more than that.
And like, when you look at Edinburgh, they're going to be very confident at home. They're obviously have a very strong record there.
Yeah.
Is like, obviously a start like that, it's going to be harder to come back. You really want a kind of more consistent 8 here.
Yeah, definitely. Like, we played them in a pre-season fixture as well, and we beat them over there. I know they didn't have their internationals playing and stuff, but like, we've been there recent enough, so we know what it's like. We're familiar with travelling over there and playing them. I have great confidence in the team that we're going to go over there and win as well. So I think everyone in the team does as well. We're in a great space at the moment. So yeah, like as I said, like we're confident and we're aiming to win obviously every game, and there's no difference to the next few.
You gave the Connacht fans some night there.
That's
high entertainment value.
Yeah. we made edge of the seat stuff, I guess. So we did on purpose, I guess.
Well done.
Yeah, cheers.
Dan, I don't know where to start with that, because from an outside point of view, you were written off coming in here with the changes you made. You put yourselves in a fantastic position. You're in total control of the game. So I guess you're heartbroken, but you have to see a lot of positives as well. Like.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously we were written off. I could see that. Bookies changed their spread from 1 point to 8 points within 10 minutes. And ultimately they were pretty close, but like we had 20 guys unavailable this week, and you know, we'd always decided that this was 2 6-day turnarounds in a row, so certain guys were going to be brought in both to freshen things up and get opportunities, and also because they've been doing well over the pre-season. It's always going to be a tough ask coming to Connacht, and they needed to, or it was important for us to put in a physical performance, and I thought in our first half, those first 2 quarters, I thought we were excellent. Defensively, I thought we were excellent. You know, we'll be gutted in the end that we had opportunities to win that game ourselves. I also think we were penalised just before their winning try on a scrum that was definitely a penalty that should have gone to us, and that decision goes our way, and we're kicking into their 22, and it could have been a different result. But it is what it is. They came out in the third quarter, played really well, and it's ended up as it is.
Yeah, the offside penalty as well. Like, I didn't see it, but it was a critical turning point, wasn't it?
That was a definite offside.
And it's a killer for you, wasn't it? Because like you had Connacht where you wanted them, you were kicking them back, you were keeping control of it.
It is, but it's like I can't, like the guys who were in those positions had worked really hard during the game, and sometimes things like that happen. You got to learn from them, but I don't want to criticise them on that, on the basis that there was so much effort and so much brilliant play outside of that.
How impressed were you with Connacht's comeback, or how frustrated are you with the way it just slipped away from you? Which way?
I'd rather focus on our stuff. Like coming into this game, I watched Connacht. I thought probably playing some of the best rugby in the league at the moment. They had nearly as strong a team as they can put out, minus maybe a couple of guys who come back from the World Cup. And we knew it was going to be a big test for us, and it always has been. But we've come up here in the same situation in previous years and won. And we were confident that was possible, and we proved that it was possible. We just didn't get it over the line.
McElroy fullback, obviously Flannery at out half, Sheridan in the second row. They're just three names I'll pick out that Connacht fans are going to go home going, right, we'll keep an eye out for them in future. So that's something that you're going to really feel good about.
Yeah, and then it's difficult to pick individuals out, but I thought Jake has been doing well for us all pre-season, and it's a difficult place to come when you're standing opposite Jack Carty, who is the master of the West Wind. So it was always going to be a tough ask for Jake, but I thought he stood up well. And we had three debutants tonight. Joe Hopes came off the bench, Academy lock. Joe's going to be a really good player. Ben Carson came on for his first cap, and I felt really bad for poor old Ruben, Ruben's first year as a professional, come in, done a really good job over pre-season, played some really good pre-season games, earned his start tonight, and then unfortunately went off very early in the game, which the group are gutted for him, but he'll have his day.
Just finally, I'm just curious, the big talking point for us in the commentary was how Ulster were causing Connacht so much trouble at the breakdown. What did you identify, and how did you make that work? I mean, is it about just being as disruptive as possible? Is it pushing the edges of the offsides and all that, or did you feel like ultimately it was par? Like,
if you listen to the Connacht crowd, it's pushing the edges of the offside.
That's what we were saying as well, Dan, if I'm being honest.
If I'm going to come back on that, I would say that the rest of the world watches Connacht pushing the limits of the breakdown, and everybody else talks about it. You won't see it because you live in your own little bubble. But
it's a nice bubble.
Yeah, it's a lovely bubble. It's beautiful. I had a couple of Guinnesses in that bubble last night. But no, I think we're perfectly legal there. We're very physical there.
Very effective, in fairness.
Yeah, and we got on the wrong side of the referee in the quarter-final last time and lost the breakdown battle there, and we knew that we couldn't afford to do that tonight, and I think we came and did a pretty good job there against some really good exponents of whatever dark arts go on at the breakdown in the lads from Connacht who do a good job there of slowing down ball, getting their hands on the ball, stealing the ball, coming around the sides, putting legs in the way of nines, getting up slowly, not rolling away, putting their hands. They're perfect exponents of that and have been over the last couple of years. But I thought we dealt with them very well, very physically.
Jake, we're talking to Dan there, so I mean, you could take positives from what you've done today because you put yourselves in a brilliant position, but we don't want to patronise either. You're obviously gutted, I'd say, that you haven't held on that.
Yeah, no, we're really disappointed. We felt there was definitely moments there that we didn't win and we could have won. There was loads of moments in the game where if we'd gotten right, I feel like we could have come away with the win, and just that's how the game goes. It's always tight in the sports ground. Connacht are playing real well, and we just couldn't get it done. Yeah.
It's funny, you have so many new players in that team but the Ulster identity that we saw last year in January when they won here is there. Is that something that's important to you? Do you feel as a group that you have tapped into what you're trying to achieve on the pitch?
Yeah, 100%. What I love personally about Ulster, even since I've moved, how close the group is. Like, it's such a tight knit group, and you can feel it when you're out there. Like, everyone's willing to put it in for each other. Like, it's a genuine love out there. Like, you're willing to go to extra lengths because the fellow beside you is someone you really care about. And I think that's going to stand to us in the long term, I think.
Great try in the first half, Sheridan's break, really good support play. You were in control, and obviously the dream starts the second half. So where does the game slip away from you, do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question. I felt they got some good phases. Like, Connacht's attack at the moment is real good. I think Mark Sexton's running it, I think, and he's doing a really good job with them. They're just running tight shape, and it's hard to defend at times. At times we defended really well. We got what we wanted. We put pressure on their breakdown, but at times they got into some flow. They got some pressure on us. At times our discipline was a little sloppy. You know, we gave away a few penalties, and that probably gave them ins. And they got a soft try off a maul where I'd done on my inside shoulder, so I was disappointing for my behalf. But yeah, there was a few moments they got back in. Like, they're a good side. They were always going to stay in the fight. Just
curious about the try. It's a bit of a Connacht perspective, but did they surprise you how that ball came out? The maul was moving forward. What catches you out there?
Yeah, that was probably it. I just expecting the wrong thing from my behalf, and that's something I learned from that, and it's a hard learning because it's cost us. But in fairness to Colin Ford, he's playing real well. I played with him last year on the Emerging Ireland tour, and he's a cracking player, and he's going real well. So no, he did well for it. But look, I can learn from that. I'll hopefully not make that mistake again.
James Hume is also playing very well. He was a huge loss when he went off, wasn't he? Yeah,
James, brilliant player. Like, I feel like he's really finding his form, and he's just looking so lively on the ball. He's so aggressive. He gives you such energy, and I love playing with him. Like,
how are you going to process this week? Like, is it frustration? Is it kind of processes and sort out the edges?
Yeah, it's disappointment. It's frustration. It's we're real hungry now next week. Like, we're desperate to beat Munster side coming off the back. They beat Dragons tonight, and they're looking sharp. So we're desperate to regroup, have a look at what went wrong, but ultimately fix the few things and go again for next week for what's going to be a great game in the Kingspan.
Okay, yes, so the order did work. Dave, are you getting to see any of the game these days from your position?
I'm getting to see all the game from my position because it's directly in front of a TV screen. In terms of actually looking out onto the pitch, I get to see the kicks. I certainly get to see the kicks at the Bohemore end. I have to go into the other side of the wall to look straight down the pitch to see the kicks at the College Road end.
But the one thing you are getting is a lot of raffling, so you're actually hearing an awful lot of what's going on the field.
Yeah. There are some very strange accents on that pitch. Not going to lie tonight, there were a lot of Dublin accents tonight, and I wasn't exactly sure who was saying what, except Conor Oliver has a very distinctive Dublin accent. There was at least one ridiculous Cork accent out there last night. What I didn't hear a lot of today, and I think there was a few issues behind this, was I didn't hear an awful lot of a second South African voice, which would have been the TMO. I think it was very, in comparison to the previous two games, there was very little... There was very little input by the TMO. There was less input by the two touch judges as well. I don't know what that is.
Very little input by the referee at times, but let's leave that a go.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Don't tee Dave up for a referee.
No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. I want to hear what Linley had to think about this game. Linley, your thoughts on a very tight result in the end?
It was a tight result, but I found it very strange in the way it was almost like the reverse of games between Ulster and Connacht, when Connacht would go out and lead, and Ulster would come back and win because of their superiority or their greater confidence. And what I think we're looking at is the fact that although Ulster have had 2 wins on the trot, they seem to not have the same confidence, I think, that they used to have, their superiority, that they were going to win and go out and win. There almost seemed like a little bit of doubt in this Ulster team. And I think conversely, Connacht have gained hugely in confidence, particularly from last season and from the 2 wins that they've already had, and that their momentum and that they are gaining that confidence, which I think is really, at the end of the day, what turned that game around in the second half. Because if you don't have confidence to go out and do it, belief in that the team and your teammates that you can do it, then they wouldn't do it. So I think I just found that quite a different dynamic to what we're used to seeing between games between Ulster and Connacht.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, Rob, the biggest moment of the game for me was watching James Hume walk past me with a HIA, because 1 minute later, called forward scoring a try.
Yeah, it was interesting. Jake Flannery was taking some of the blame on that. He reminds me of Jack Carty, as in he's a very thought-provoking guy. It was really interesting to chat to him. He's a young man who's very talented and had a super game. Probably would have been man of the match nearly if they had won it. But he was critical of himself there. But Hume was a huge loss, no question about that. It's a fair point. But I think Linley's right. I think we have to hold this fixture up against all the other Ulster fixtures over the last 6 years and ask yourself the question, how many times have Connacht got into this hole against Ulster? Every time. But this time, like Linley said, the confidence is just something a little bit different. It doesn't mean we're going to go and suddenly start beating Edinburgh and Bulls and Sharks and Stormy. We're not that good yet. Mm-hmm. But yet is a word that I'd like people to focus on, because I've a lot of hope around what these guys are trying to do. Yeah,
they won ugly, Dave. It's not something Connacht are normally good at.
Well, it's better than losing playing beautiful rugby, which we've all experienced for many, many years. This is Ulster. Ulster have a tendency to switch off in games. They switched off last week against the Bulls and allowed them to get very much back into it. And we're hanging on to a game they were dominating. They switched off. They were brilliant for 60 minutes. I think Hume going off, I think they made a mistake. I think I would have left Shanahan on. I would have left Flannery on. They weren't doing anything wrong. Now, Flannery did pick up an injury, so he may have been carrying a knock. I don't know. But I thought they took off Eric O'Sullivan, who was having a storming game as well. I think they went to those guys and thought that they could. They thought if they were in with a chance of winning, they would bring on the likes of Burns and Dokes and they would see it out. But also have this tendency to switch off. And I was hoping, as long as we are close enough that we can take advantage of that when they go, we did. Except we decided to give them a 17-point lead, which was going a bit too far.
I also think they took Matty Ray off, who I thought was really effective. He was really, really destructive, and I think they lost a lot with him as well.
They did. And Linley, for me, the big issue was that Connacht didn't seem to learn from what the Bulls had done the previous week, is that Ulster seemed to struggle if you made it a forward-orientated game. Once Connacht made it a forward-orientated game, got their rolling maul going, that's how they scored their tries.
Well, I think that was part of the confidence that was growing within them, that they had worked out possibly by half-time how they were able to compete. And it would appear that actually Ulster's backline was probably what they thought was their trump card. But in fact, it meant that Connacht could prevail, and use that forward momentum more and more. And I think it was a superb performance from the forwards, the pack in the second half, who literally did take over that game, and they set everything in motion from their set piece.
My only other issue I have in the game was that we got within 3 points and then went for the posts when we probably should have kicked for the corner and got into the lead that way, because we had all the momentum in the forwards, as Linley's just said.
Yeah, Joe Healy agrees with you as well, because he was saying the same thing. I was like, maybe you get level. I don't know. But look the 3 tries we got, because like Jack Carty, people say, JJ Hanrahan has an edge on them. Maybe, but I think you need 2 out halves. Like, I think Munster are going to really miss Joey Carberry. We saw him pre-season. He was in incredible form. And I think a JJ Hanrahan and Jack Carty combo is going to be so important for what we want to do. And anyone who thinks that one over the other or anything like that, because look at the pass for Tom Farrell's try. Look at the crossfield kick for Kilgallen's try. Look at the kick for touch on that penalty on halfway. Because at times he'll misfire on a touch kick and we'll be like, oh God, why didn't you get that closer? But just when the moment was right, the offside penalty was a cruel blow on Ulster. It was deserved. He was offside. Dan McFarland admitted that afterwards. But a massive turnaround. But then it's like, what do you do with that? And he, boom, corner, game, set, match.
It was. I suppose the other big worry from the game, Dave, was that Caelan Blade had to leave with a dodgy-looking ankle.
It was one of those horrible ones. There's absolutely no... I know the difference between a malicious one and an accidental one, and that's very much an accidental one. Sometimes a big guy falls on a small guy, and the small guy's going to get crushed. It didn't look good. He was in pain. That was one thing, actually, I was slightly bothered with by the referee, and this has got nothing... He did seem to allow play to go on a lot with when there were players down. There was a head injury for Ulster, and he was shouted into his ear, and he let the play go on for another couple of minutes, and that's ultimately what led to Blady getting hurt. But according to Pete, he seems to be walking around, so we'll see. There's going to be injuries. I thought Colin Riley did okay. He's fine. He was there at the end. Do worry there's a big drop-off after below Colin Riley to whatever. I would assume it would be Michael McDonald. I don't think, even though I'd love to see it, I don't think we're going to see Matty Devine. But you'd kind of be hoping in terms of leadership that Blady is there as well, especially given that the next 3 games are big Scotsmen and then even bigger South Africans.
They certainly are. Linley, are you worried that Connacht might go on a bit of a losing streak now, because their away record tends to be absolutely. I have to bring these things down. I'm still annoyed that we didn't get a bonus point win, but anyway.
Just before bringing Linley in, a journalism glory moment for me there. What do you want from these next 3 games, Conor Oliver? Wins, Rob, would be nice. And I was like, yeah, good answer. Good. That's, I mean, seriously, Frost Nixon stuff there for me.
All right, Linley, are you worried? Are you looking at what can you see that would make you worry that Connacht can't keep this momentum going?
Or a bit like watching the All Blacks lose to South Africa, basically. I suppose the physicality of the forwards that Edinburgh are usually where they do have a lot of prowess and a lot of strength. So it will be a test, and these lads have had 3 big games for them at home and 3 good wins. So possibly that would be what I would see is probably the biggest
worry.
Linley said something there. Just if we may be wrapping up. You're in charge, so maybe we're not. But I've been feeling really glum since the quarter-final defeat to the mighty All Blacks in Linley's wonderful home country. My rugby love has been it's just not there. I've been opening the cupboard and there's nothing in there. And then Jack Carty thought about a pass and then said, you know what, I'm going to do a crossfield kick to Jeremy Kilgallen. And I think that is the moment where I'm back awake now, loving my rugby again. So thank you, lads. Conor,
yeah. And the atmosphere in the Clan Stand went from almost non-existent to being 100% back to normal. Any other business? Anyone got any other business?
The thing about that kick you're talking about was Ulster were actually practicing that in the pre-warm-up. And I was looking at it saying, oh God, look at that. That's what we're so used to doing. Are they going to be trying this? They didn't try it though.
No, normally because Billy Burns does that stuff, but they never got into the 22 for them to try that. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. Keep these ones fairly short. Any other business, anyone? I have one, but yeah, go Dave.
I'd like to stand up for the IRFU, because the IRFU have made a number of mistakes in their time. But the IRFU would never, on the day of an interpro derby, we'd have the night after a major game involving one of their teams in a new ground as a big event that was piloted by the league. They would never organise an international on the same day against the Barbarians. And I just to say, RFU, well thought out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Actually, I'm not going to use one because mine is Emma, a friend of the podcast, who went on a fantastic rant, and I didn't have my recorder with me, about the problems with the modern way of doing season tickets. What's wrong with just a little piece of plastic for the season ticket? Because a lot of people are having trouble getting in the gate, getting their season tickets, because not everybody's clever enough to be online and doing things all the way. Get a simple season ticket, and the point she was making, which I thought was very valid, the little piece of plastic that Dave showed me, his little piece of plastic for Galway United, that can't cost as much as the data centres that are required to track all the emails and have all that stuff going. And I thought that's a very good point, and maybe someone will listen to that, but I will get Emma on because her rant was way better than this. All right, we'll leave it there, folks. We'll be back to you during the week. Remember, if you want to help us support the podcast...
I don't like being nasty, but...
Yeah, well, just finishing. Yeah, we're done. If you want to support the podcast, tell your friends, let them know where we are. Patreon.com/CraigieRugby. Get people listening. We try our best to give you as much support, as much audio as we can, as the lights are turned off as we leave the quality room.
A couple of cups of coffee. That's all we're asking.
Loose, cut it loose. Break out or nothing changes. Sad and confused.